Nationally recognized certified appraiser Elizabeth Stewart, Santa Barbara's treasure sleuth, will help you put a value on the treasures in your own home.
Every time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven?
In and out.
So let's find out.
3,
How valuable
2,
is it?
1. You're live.
Hello, 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 Santa Barbara. It's your chantress of everything valuable and beautiful, Elizabeth Stewart. Hey, Richard, where are you?
I am here in the studio. You know how the video tends to really eat up bandwidth? It's been locking up my computer. So you'll see me pop in when I give you the 2 minutes and all that good stuff. But I'm here and enjoying this fabulous weather.
Yes, yes. I will tell you that the lake house I bought in Lake Arrowhead a couple of years ago at the beginning of COVID got 9 feet of snow. And
I'm sorry, 9 feet?
9 feet, 9 feet in Lake Arrowhead. Nobody can go. I mean, I just heard from my neighbor that he's locked in his house for the next 4 days for sure. And he actually hiked through the big snowdrifts to get groceries. I mean, it's craziness up there. They've called in the National Guard. I mean, it's nuts because California is not, well, we're not used to 9 feet of snow. So anyway,
we had quite a bit of snow up at our place, not 9 feet and not even 9 inches, but I'll send you the link to all of the photos and videos that I took, but
well, you show
my
me.
gosh.
Yeah, you're up on top 54, right?
Yeah. Oh, spectacular.
And you got snow?
Snow. Yeah. It's funny too, because I was taking photographs. Santi would probably appreciate this. I did not use a filter, but it looks like I used a black and white filter in the afternoon of Saturday. And then Sunday, I must have put on a intensify the colors filter because the white and the green and the blue were just amazing. Just amazing.
Well, I know you like cold weather.
Yes, I do.
Anyway, I wanted to introduce a friend of mine, and I always follow what she does because she's so creative. And everything she comes up with blows my mind. And she's an artist up in Ojai, and she runs a transformational theater for the community called OVATE. I just think that she is Susan Kellerjan, and I think she is amazing. And she's put together this thing, and why this intrigued me was that she's put together a thing, Richard, called the Furious Collaboration Project. So, let me take you back, Richard, to the Oresteia. There's a very famous Greek play, Euripides, where here's the community, and the community is sick to death. Not all the community, one half of the community is sick to death that they do not get the respect they feel they should deserve. Well, this one half is the female half of the community. And what they come up with during the play to establish respect is aided by the help of the Furies. And they're the Greek goddesses. They're sort of like, Richard, a little bit, perhaps Kali would be a good example because Kali has the ability to give birth, but the ability to kill. This is this, and so here's Susan in Ojai saying, let's get together. We're just kind of tired. That in the light of 1,000 years of trauma, we still don't, as women, have the kind of standing and respect. It's since since Aeschylus wrote the Furies, Euripides the Oresteia, we've had a good 2,000 plus years of the same kind of treatment. So Susan figured, okay, let's get together a collaborative project. She got together some wonderful artists, and not only that, she's got together some sponsors. I want to just give you a list, very quick list of the sponsors that she's pulled together from the community. Kim Maxwell Studio, Ojai Valley Women's Club, Flourish, Tawny Allen and Ventura County Businesswomen, Greta Balian and Lavina Design, Susan Jones, Laura Deckers, Denise Heller and Proper Beauty, Cal Lutheran University, Ojai Talk of the Town, Holly Roberts Photography, Sammy Zeringer, Vito Gregory Music, Michelle Blackwell and MAB Studios, and the Ojai Valley Inn. So those are just part of the sponsors. And she's got, if you go onto the website to OVATE, OVATE, you will see the photo of the cast. And the cast is vast. There's mostly women, as you would have imagined. There's 2 males in the cast, one of which is Chase, and Chase is Susan's son, also a brilliant performer and handsome as all get out. And you will see that you can buy tickets to a general seating performance with no division of the audience and the performers, to be held at the Ojai Valley Women's Club, March 10th to the 19th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. What that means, open seating, if you've never been in a theater where it's open seating, you're in for an experience because you're part of the action. And I begged Susan to give me 20 minutes. She's got rehearsal coming up and she's got to leave us pretty soon, but I begged her to come on and tell us a little bit about her project, how she put it together. OVATE, of course, is her baby, dedicated to providing process-focused training in contemporary classical world theater. She's always multi-generational. Every time I talk to her, she's got a cast from 8 years old to 89 years old. And this particular performance is just the same. She has pulled together some featured artists. Our friend Lynn Creighton, who's a master sculptor, I spoke to Lynn about reclaiming the sacred source. It's a very interesting book that she's done, an illustrated book. She actually is quite an oracle, in my opinion, and her sculptures are beautiful. And Victoria McGee, an author of A Trauma Toolbox, is one of the featured artists. I want to know, Susan, how did this come together? Did you have is it a play?
Yeah. Let me explain what's happening, because it's kind of an experience, I guess you would call it. But I do want to correct you. Actors don't go to rehearsal this early. I'm going to my day job in a few minutes. So I'm a director, and so I put together what's called a devised theater piece. And devised theater pretty much can be explained that people collaborate together. So we pulled Aeschylus's The Furies, and I pulled it apart and took a couple translations and pulled out what I thought was quite relevant to what's going on in today, both on the political division and the gender issues, and just basically human rights issues that
basically
is continuing from when the playwrights were writing this several thousand years ago, and they were writing about history at the time too. So as Lynn Creighton puts in her book, Reclaiming the Sacred Source, it's been 5,000 years of oppression. I think it's longer, but that is debatable, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. So in any case, so I don't like proselytize my ideas, what I had was a reaction to the Roe v. Wade reversal, and in a deeper sense. So it wasn't necessarily about a political agenda for me to choose sides on that debate. And then what came through, what happened was, it felt like it opened up again the statement that whatever you believe in, as far as the sides politically, women are still being subjugated and lesser. So our rights are getting taken away no matter what side we are on. And I felt a rage come up in me and feel tired of, like, my parents' generation, my generation growing up with this, watching it. And also I have a filmmaker, a friend whose name is Camila Lopez, and she wrote a film and directed called Equal Means Equal, talking about that the ERA still isn't ratified. So 38 states have passed that it can be ratified, but we still don't have an equal rights amendment, and 90% of the country doesn't understand that. And so it's like,
I did not know that.
didn't you think in the 70s we got the equal rights amendment passed?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
everybody's agreed on it, but it literally hasn't been ratified, which in a short kind of layman's term means the president has to sign a piece of paper and put it in a file, and not a single president since that time has put it in a file. Okay, so in any case, I had a reaction. I was in Mississippi at the time. I was at an artist residency. I created a fury mask to get my angst out of it. And then I thought, during making the fury mask, there's got to be other people that are angry about this, and we need to channel it as artists.
Excellent. And how cool. So, you know, this idea that the mask, so that, okay, so dear listeners, so what Susan is talking about, you know, she is quite the scholar of mythology, and her idea of this mask is that the mask is a persona. Well, that's the name in Greek for mask, persona. So what is a persona? Well, it's been used in our language, English, to say, well, it's the projection of our selfhood, which is interesting because the mask is supposed to be masking, but yet in this case, it's the projection of selfhood. And classically, you know, the Fury's mask has 3 faces, right, Susan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Explain that a little.
Well, this is morphed into a performance. So we did a 3 months writers workshop to have contemporary viewpoints. And I have 3 young women who are playing the Furies. And it's a really interesting point that you brought up about Kali. And I want to just put the question out there. Why are there so many female monsters? Why are there creatures? Why even in mythology, we have been demonized?
Yeah. I think I can say that, you know, this would be a whole dissertation, I think, but the idea is that there's there's 2 or 3 parts to the answer. Number one is that I think females have always been the unknown, because what we can do in gender life is mysterious. What we can do when we raise life is also mysterious. And when there is no explanation or no ability to copy this on the other gender, no male really until very shortly could ever give birth. So that becomes vicious. What is not quantifiable becomes
Vilifiable.
Area for suspicion. And you know, this crops up. It's very interesting. There's a lot of history about the idea of, believe it or not, crises, petulance, plague, and females.
We actually talk about that. We actually talk about climate change and the killing of the female and Mother Earth. And our play is packed with lots of images from ancient Sumeria to biblical texts to modern day talking. Yeah, we don't miss it. And we're not vilifying men at the same time.
It's so funny because, you know, I was talking with, this will interest you being a director, Susan, but a couple of months ago, I was talking with the cast of The Crucible over at Santa Barbara High. A very mature subject matter for high school drama. And, you know, The Crucible, very interesting because there were some very alive young females in that. In fact, the director had done a really interesting thing and cast one of the judges, one of the Puritan judges, not as a male, but as a female. So she was actually a female actor performing a male role. I mean, very interesting. Their thoughts on this whole issue that you're discussing, the Roe v. Wade and the oppression of women, that was actually being worked in by these 18-year-olds into The Crucible. So I think you're picking up on a real current zeitgeist here with the younger.
I'll tell you about that when we come back. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, Richard.
Yes, ma'am.
let's go to quick break. Is that behind you a shot of the snow in Santa Barbara?
Well,
It is,
that's a
isn't it?
shot of the snow that fell on the Monday previous. I'll throw up a picture of the snowfall on that Saturday, last Saturday.
A lot of interesting stuff happening in our world today. A lot of interesting stuff. I'm speaking with Susan Garagian, and we're talking about OVATE, the Ojai Valley Artist Theater Ensemble. They're really cool collaborative piece about women called the Furious Collaboration Project. And I want to know more when we get back from the break. Don't turn that down. Back in a second. So Richard, I've got.
All right, you're clear. What? Go ahead.
Okay. So I've got 2 guests coming any minute now.
Michael is here. You want to have Michael in the room now?
So Michael can actually be in the room, and then his wife is coming as well.
Okay.
So Michael can be in the room, and then I'm going to finish up very quickly with Susan. Susan wanted to bring up a point
Really quickly.
And I want to go to quick break.
Sure.
Oh, there they are. Hey, you guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, hello. Thank you for being. So we're going to just finish with Susan, and then we'll go quickly over to you guys. And by the way, Susan is also from Ojai. She's the director of the Ojai Valley Artist Theater Ensemble, and they're mounting a production, which is a collaborative theater project based on many features in mythology, but Aeschylus is the Furies, and it's a project that was based off of the Roe v. Wade decision. And Susan decided that she was going to. She's a trained performer and mime, and she decided she was going to do a Mask of the Furies, and this production has collaborated, and she's got 20 plus women of all ages collaborating in this open seating project where she's doing at the Ojai Women's Center. So Susan is quite a feather in the cap in Ojai. She's an educator as well as a director, and I think this is marvelous. She's got a sculptor involved, she's got an author involved, she's got a realist painter involved, and then she's got 3 budding female playwrights from the community involved.
17 writers.
17 playwrights.
17 writers.
I didn't know there were. Ojai blows me away. There's 17 playwrights in Ojai. It's fantastic.
They're just writers. They collaborated on this piece.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
All right, stand by. We're coming back.
Okay.
In 3, 2, 1, you're live.
Welcome back. It's Susan Kajarian, and we're talking about this wonderful performance opportunity, by the way. Come up to Ojai and see this. It's called Furious. It's a collaborative project. The cast is magnificent. Susan was telling me during the break that she's been working on this project for 3 months with 17 writers and all kinds of other multimedia artists to mount the project. And just a shout out, Ojai Women's Club is the performance March 10th through the 19th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. What's really cool, as Susan mentions in her emails, it'll be lawn chair seating. You're going to be in the performing circle. And if you haven't been in that kind of a setting in theater, it's pretty electric. Susan, just you were wanting to just finish up with a comment about the idea that this younger generation of women are really paying attention. And I wondered if you had experienced that with some of your younger writers as you collaborated.
Yeah, this was a surprise, and I'll just end on this, is that when we decided to do this project, we thought there's going to be women of a certain age, like around my age, that would, we've already been through certain women's rights issues. And so, and mostly in Ojai, the medium age is 50 plus. So we thought that we'd be getting some of that. We got mostly young people. So 20 somethings came in gung ho. They jumped on it. They've got a great voice. They've been teaching us lots of stuff. We've learned about gender roles and how to use technology and all sorts of things that what my theater company's mission is multi-generational, multicultural, etc. So they jumped in, and there's 3 incredible young 20 somethings that are doing the Furies, including the rest of the cast. of a 16-year-old that wrote her original song, Attitude is a Habit. Her name is Maya Muderis, and she performs it on stage as well. We've got an amazing cast, age 16 to 84. And that's all I'm going to say.
84.
Well, Lynn is,
84.
I'm not going to give it away, but you know, we've got some elder states women in there. And we also are making a documentary that is going to be about devised theater and how art can save lives. So there you have it. I'm going to let you go to your next guest. Love you lots. Thanks for having me on. And have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
Suzanne, and good luck with the show. That is the coolest thing, though, that you're doing a video about collaborative theater in general.
Yeah.
And presenting that. It's when you say art can save lives, it's really interesting. Richard and I, during the pandemic, we had the opportunity, because we were so shut down, to kind of reach out to the artistic community, and a couple people in your line of work were like, oh yeah, we'll speak to my friend in New York, and they're doing something really interesting. So, you know, our little show was branching out. We spoke to a theater company in New York, classical theater, just like yours, and I said, so, you know, how are you guys doing? I know you're having to learn technology to do any kind of performing, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, gosh darn it, we didn't say it like that, but we can't put it on the air. I don't know why New York City isn't calling the artists, because we're the problem solvers. We are the problem solvers. I don't know why they're not reaching out to the artistic community in New York City with regards to this pandemic, because we got some ideas.
That's another conversation.
That is another conversation. Thanks, Susan. Appreciate
You're welcome.
it. Hey, Richard,
Bye.
let's go to a quick break. When we get back from the break, a real special power couple that I've been looking at, and I've got some really interesting comments and questions for them. They're going to be speaking at the Santa Barbara Museum of Art, because in their wisdom, the Santa Barbara Museum of Art has mounted a show where they're showing the work of certain artists, two artists actually, that were a couple. And what is so fascinating to me, Richard, is that they've reached out to the community for the real powerhouse couples in arts, and they've invited them to speak about a shared life as creatives. And so I've got Mikael Jorgensen, who's coming to speak to us, and his partner, or the other way around as well, Cassandra C. Jones. And I knew of Cassandra probably a year ago, Richard, because I had an appraisal of a work of hers, which was the size of a wall. And I can't tell her who bought it or what it was, but it was stunning. And I had the opportunity to look at her body of work about a year ago when I was trying to write about this piece for my client. And I was blown away. It's in his main room, and you see this piece, and it is also a collaborative piece. We'll talk about that. But just to say that I have been a fan for this year. And when I saw that name come up, I said to the museum, could I speak to both of those guys, both of those artists, Mikael and also my goddess artist? And they said, yeah, that was they actually said I could speak to these two, Richard. So let's go to a quick break. Cassandra and Mike, did you say Michael or Mikael?
Michael.
Michael and Cassandra will be back with us in a second. And I want to introduce and brag on them a little bit. And then we're going to talk about their journey as creatives that are in the house together. My God, I'd probably kill somebody if that was the case. Okay, don't turn that down. Back in a minute.
All right, you're clear.
You're muted. Okay. God, I wonder what piece she appraised. This is the only two pieces the bear.
Hey, Richard.
Yes.
Okay, so the music I sent you is a little bit like This Is My Life, Michael Jorgensen. So you can actually just take snippets. I gave you the stop or the beginning points.
Yeah.
And yeah, and maybe could we come back with just you pick? And Michael should be able to recognize, and I could help a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that, and you, Richard, would love to just have coffee with Michael. He is one of you. I just have to say, Michael, so Richard is 40 plus years in radio, born legally blind, and has done soundboards for 40, 50 years, and has worked for theater companies and radio plays and all kinds of things throughout his career. And it's so interesting that he started off with this disability, which is I can't really see, and he turned it into this magnificent career in sound. It's pretty fantastic. I was just bragging on Richard. You can't see him. He'll be back in and out every so often.
My ears are burning. What the hell's being said?
She's just bragging on you.
I was bragging on you because Richard, you're going to hear Michael's background a little bit, and you'll be like, okay, I need to know him better because he's quite amazing.
All right, stand by. We are coming back.
That's the Antarctica.
I land the flying saucer. You guys are so lucky.
No, that's
You're live.
So how cool is this, Richard? So Michael Jorgensen is here. He's a Grammy Award-winning musician. Yeah, isn't that cool? The winning musician, engineer, and composer. Since 2002, he's been recording and touring member of the band Wilco. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. I just had this amazing fun time last night looking at all the music that he's pulled together and all the people that he's helped with sound, and also developed his own platform. He writes, I love making music and the creative collaboration. So many interesting, unexpected results happen when you are working with creative and thoughtful people. And then I go on to find out that one of my heroes, his father, Michael Jorgensen's father, actually worked for Bob James, and the most sampled, I guess, second most sampled musician in the entire universe. And 30 years after the senior Jorgensen's collaboration, Richard, Michael shows up 30 years later at a performance and says, oh, by the way, I'm such and such a person. Well, he did this marvelous film as well. So just recent music. What's recent? Check it out. Check it out. If you have a chance, Richard, you could, Michael Jorgensen, Jorgensen Studios. Take a look at the, what can I say, Richard? It's oral storytelling. Okay. Moneyball Blues, Even Still, and Not Where the Story Ends. They did their best, In Jest, Lizard Music. And Lizard Music is also a fanciful, interesting, hypothetical narrative Spinal Tap.
Really? Okay.
It is. I watched it, and you can see it. Take a look at Lizard Music. It's on YouTube, and that's one of Michael's inventions. But let's see. Let's see, what are some of the other recent cues? We've got a whole list of recent cues that he's done. Really interesting. I looked at Old Lang Syne. You'll never hear Old Lang Syne the way that is performed. Western Blues was another one, and the subtitle is a tear in your craft beer. I should send that to my son, who's a millennial. Then we've got a film about the James Webb Space Telescope. It was so interesting because when I was speaking to Susan the last part of this hour, she had a shot from James Webb right behind her. I don't know if you saw that, Michael. And then Michael began in 2022 hosting the Ojai Underground Exchange. And I had this wonderful experience of looking through the kind of music that they play at the exchange. So they get together and people bring their own favorite songs. And is it Betty or something? There's a musician that I discovered that was listening through, you know, everybody brings their songs and then that's recorded. Michael records that and says, okay, this is the kind of thing. And they all sit and they listen collaboratively. Now you might think, well, what's the difference? You know, I'm listening to the YouTube. I've got my great stereo. I've got my Macintosh going, blah, blah, blah. What's the difference that I'm listening collaboratively? Listening to, this is what Michael says, listening to recorded music as a group is a profoundly different experience than listening by yourself. It comes highly recommended. And this is from a professional, what do you call it, specialist in oral storytelling. Okay, now let's brag a little on Cassandra C. Jones. I told you that I walked into a mansion and I saw one particular large wall filled with a major multimedia installation by Cassandra, and I had the pleasure of looking at her oeuvre to understand. I didn't need to understand too much about how you work because the work spoke for itself. But just a little background. She is interested in digital photography. She uses that to create collage installation and video works. Now talk about the collaboration between these two creatives. We've got an oral storyteller and we've got a visual storyteller. She writes that she works to spin narratives and present a prismatic reflection of a self-involved, love this, self-involved, technologically based, snap-happy contemporary lifestyle. She does this to offer possibility of growth, space, and discovery. And with that space, she's looking for magic and transformation. I have right here all the shows that she's been in, and I was most interested to know that she's designed for opera for the Libby Bowl. So here again, it's an Ojai connection. She co-hosted with her partner, Michael, Friday Flights at the Getty Center. And then check this out, the residencies. She's been, this is what really interested me about her bio, the residencies. Taft Garden Nature Preserve in Ojai, Southern Graphics Conference visiting artist in Richmond, Virginia, Egon Schiele Art Centrum, yay, in Czech Republic, Drake Hotel Artist Residency in Toronto, Virginia Center for the Creative Arts, the Heinz Endowment Fellow, that brings me back to the Pittsburgh Ballet Theater where I used to dance. Hall Farm Educator for the Education for Center, Hall Farm Center for Arts and Education, Atlantic Center for the Arts, etc., Smyrna Beach, Georgia, Florida, and the Fachhochschule Schwäbische Hall in Schwäbische, Germany. These are residencies, and it's funny. Susan was saying she was just in a residency in Mississippi. She learned as much as she did from her mentors as she did from the students that she was in residency supposed to teach. And I imagine that's the same. I know we're going to go to quick break. When we get back, now I've introduced the two of them. I want them to talk about their life together. I won't be banal and say how they met. We'll just skip that over and we'll just say, you know, what's it like being a creative? And I want to preface that really quickly before we go to break by saying, my mother was the first female graduate of Juilliard in conducting, and she had perfect pitch. We were 4 kids. She was a single mom. Growing up, she drove us crazy because she taught and she had perfect pitch. And even an alarm clock that wasn't wound up, you know how you had to do that in the past? Properly, I didn't have the perfect pitch. It would send her over the top. Living with a woman like that was so tough. that I thought, oh my gosh, this has got to be something I want to know from Michael and Cassandra. Don't turn that dial, back in a minute. Hey, Richard, go to quick break. Are you there?
And you're clear.
Okay. Too bad you can't see Richard. Well, Richard, you got to come on now and again.
No worries. I'm in and out, in and
There
out.
he is. Okay, there's
I
Richard.
just
There's
kind of,
Richard.
I'm phasing in and out from one dimension to the other.
So if you just sample a little bit of the many pieces that I sent you that have to do with Michael's work, you can I didn't send you the whole Keystone Cops video. You know what, Michael, that was so interesting to me because, you know, you can see I'm limping around. I had a pelvic reconstruction. I was in ballet for years, and I have a lot of problems because of the dance issue with the hips and the feet and all that. A lot of former, you know, 60-year-old dancers have that issue. And I found it so interesting. That performer was such a physical performer. I kept on watching his body. It was like, whoa, he's a dancer for sure. He's got to
Delaney's
be a dancer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
And,
I
you know,
don't know if
yeah,
he's a dancer, but you know, I don't know.
you know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, no, he's a very physical comedian. That's, you know, that's his thing. He's a friend. He was on a show called 30 Rock, and he's a pal, and we asked him to write and direct and star in our video, and he did, and that's what happened.
It's fun.
Absolutely. It was so interesting, some of the choices of the idea of the distance between the fantasy of I'm a rock star and the idea that he really is kind of a star, and the idea of what the voice is and what the voice can do. Okay, Richard's coming back.
We're coming back. I can take the flying saucer out for another spin. I just not mentioned the suspension.
I know, this is fantastic. This makes me think I'm freezing.
I think we need to change the oils. All right, here we go. Enough of that. In 3, 2, 1. Goodbye.
Welcome back. It's Elizabeth Stewart. The pleasure of talking with Michael Jorgensen and Cassandra C. Jones, a couple. They live up in Ojai. Their studios are up in Ojai. He is a sound oral storyteller, creator, collaborator. She's a visual storyteller, collaborator. And I want to know, obviously those things intersect because you've done group talks to prestigious organizations such as the Getty. What is the similarity between what both of you do you think? I mean, you do reach down into some well springs.
I'm not sure what the similarity is between what we do. We both appreciate each other's work intensely, and we both hold it with reverence. And we have this very deep understanding that between the two of us, and we always have, and I couldn't have married him without this understanding, is that our creative practice has pretty significant priority in our lives. And when one person has to go do something, it is never a no, it is always a yes. It doesn't matter if the kids need something, or there's an event to go to, or we haven't seen each other in a while, or whatever. It is always a yes for that person to go do their creative thing. And it's an asset to our relationship. I think before every guy I had dated before we met, and we had a very fast and furious courtship. We were engaged within 6 weeks. But everyone I had dated before, the priority was more our relationship and not the creative process. And
Yep.
it was endlessly frustrating to me, and almost demeaning in a way, because all I wanted to do was, I wanted to be with someone and I wanted love and affection, but I also desperately wanted to be in my studio all the time. And And that is what we allow each other to do. And without that, our relationship suffers. We have to have that first and foremost. And we include the kids as much. We have 2 kids, 8 and 11. And they have never known a life other than this. They've never known their father to not tour, or their mother not to travel to residencies, or to be missing for several weeks when she's working on a show. And we all cheer each other on. Always. That's our baseline.
So clear you have that understanding. Mary Oliver, a great poet, it has a wonderful essay saying it's the artist's responsibility to be so totally engaged in and focused, and that's what artists do, and that's first and foremost. Very interesting. And also another thing that I'd like to know your reaction, both of you. I was writing something that and I was thinking of Cassandra's work. So in the New York Times recently, there was an article about the distinction between highbrow, middlebrow, and lowbrow art, and that's been around since 1946. Those terms. Russell Lines was an author who decided that there's going to be a division in the world of art, high, middle, and lowbrow. And there's a real rethinking of this. And I was thinking about Cassandra's work and also Michael's work in all the collaboration. So in 1946, when those terms were developed, it's so interesting because there was the idea that there were certain areas in which the art was a pure art form. And it seems that both Michael and Cassandra's work, that it pulls from a lot of sources. I mean, Michael himself is sampling various sounds. Cassandra's using images that are common culture and making them beautiful and repeating them and doing, almost rhythmic designs.
And that is something we definitely have in common. We're using
Yes.
we're using things from outside.
Yeah.
And pulling them in to make our work.
Right. So that's what I was thinking as I was thinking about both of you, that what's the glue? What's the kingpin? What's the glue? And I was thinking, well, here's a couple that don't necessarily adhere to that. I'm an artist. Because you've got to be looking at the whole entire world to do what you do. Both of you, listening to the world in Michael's case and looking at the world in Cassandra's case, not just a certain part of the world, not just the highbrow part of the world, let's say. Very interesting to be, writing this piece for a scholarly journal and then thinking about and looking at Cassandra's work. And in the background, I'm writing this piece. I've got Michael's, especially the Antarctica piece. I just loved that. I thought that was so interesting. I want you to tell us a little bit, Michael, about you're working with Bob James, how that happened. Did that expand you as an artist?
Well, it is a deep and meaningful part of my family history and a deep part of my creative and my relationship with music history. My dad was Bob's recording engineer starting in 1975. So I was 3 years old when they began a 15-year partnership together. And it was during that time that Bob had some of the sort of early and wide-ranging success. He wrote the theme to the TV show Taxi, which my dad was the recording engineer of. And all of the people that were in Bob's world, musicians and technicians and our engineers, they were a sort of extended family to us growing up. And and it was, we kind of revolved around Bob's music. And then at a certain point in around 89, 90, my dad and Bob decided to part ways professionally. And Bob, sort of just dropped off the radar because I was starting my life as a musician and finding my very different path than his. And just this past October, I saw that Bob was playing at the Catalina in Hollywood, and I thought, I got to go see Bob. It's, he's 82. I haven't seen him in 30 years, and I saw the show. He sounded great. It was a really remarkable experience to see him again and kind of connect. And on the drive back from Hollywood to Ojai, I was thinking, I can't believe there's not a documentary on Bob James. This guy's got a storied and prolific career, and there's not really a book or any film or anything to sort of chronicle this extraordinary career. And, you say, sometimes I find myself saying things to my friends that are slightly a dare. And I called up a friend of mine who's a drummer. His name's Mario Caleri, amazing drummer and a good friend. And he was supposed to have come with me on that trip, but he couldn't. And on the way home, I was like, man, I can't believe there's not a doc on Bob. And he's like, oh, you need to get in touch with my friend Greg. And so very quickly, this has sort of snowballed, not out of control, but it has grown into this really important project for me that is, a parallel to my music career, and I'm now directing the documentary on Bob James. And a few weeks ago, we went to the Blue Note in New York City, and we're filming Bob performing with Talib Kweli and his band, and then interviewing the hip hop artists who have sampled his music. And it was a profound experience. And we're at the very beginning of this process. So there's lots more to come.
I understand that the dateline on your story regarding the filming of Restless, and by the way, dear listener, Restless is the name. It's Restless ... the Bob James story. The dateline on that is just very, very recent, and it's fascinating that this is happening as we're speaking, and it is also the couple is going to be speaking at Santa Barbara Museum of Art. This is very, very quickly. Richard's giving us time. We got to go to break. Why choose the title Restless?
Bob is endlessly curious. He is creatively restless. He is not a person or a figure to spend time looking backwards too much. He is always looking forward to the next project. What are the next creative challenges I can present myself with? What can I do that I haven't done before? And that has translated into, I think, 60 solo albums, and I think almost as many records with other musicians, being a sideman or an arranger, kind of in a more supportive role. And to have that many album credits, then still going. He's 83. He still sounds incredible and vibrant. And I was closing my eyes at the Catalina, and I was transported back to the last time I was at the Blue Note in New York City when I was 12 years old. And I was like, this is the same guy. This is the same energy. It was really beautiful.
That almost made me tear up when you said this is a guy that never looks back. He's always like, what's the next thing I can do? What a way to live. I mean, wow, if that could be the line on my business card, boy, wouldn't that be great? It's almost impossible to do. Okay, Richard, where are you?
I'm right here.
Okay, so let's go to quick break, and then when we get back from the break, we've got a little less than 5 minutes, but I would love to hear Richard. Okay, Richard.
Yes.
Hey, Richard. Okay.
Yes.
I want you to ask Michael something, because you are a sound guy for 50 some years. I want you to ask him something really deep, interesting, that we're going to put down in the archives at the studio, something huge. Okay. When we get back from the break.
No pressure. No pressure.
No pressure at all. Okay. Don't turn that down. I am speaking with a power couple in the creative life. internationally speaking. They live up in Ojai, and they're coming down to speak at the Santa Barbara Museum of Art because Santa Barbara Museum of Art is doing a series of talks, interviews, thinking about creating as a couple. Amazing. Don't turn that down. Back in a minute. Okay, Richard.
Clear.
We'll document this. Oh, great.
Is this me? This music? It is.
I like this.
I don't remember where it's from. I think it is.
I like it too.
What was it? I don't remember. It sounds familiar. I can't quite place it.
Well, it's all you. I went through and
I know we were both really
I guess
enjoying that. Really.
I guess it's a good problem that I've made so much stuff.
totally, yeah. No, I mean, I did some of the older stuff because I thought, oh, I wonder if he'll get what these things are. And I was thinking, I think that there's a little bit from Arizona in there. There's all kinds of little things that I was finding it. It's just fascinating to me because, having known Richard almost 20 years, I can't believe that, but there's a certain amount of technical ability too that goes into this. And it's very interesting. So there's my partner, John, who's also very interested in the audio world. So yeah, well, we're not on the air, but
I was half listening while I was in the shower to everything you were all saying. But hello.
So do you
Hi.
know this Wilco, this band that Michael's involved?
I've heard the name, but I don't really know.
Okay.
I have. Is it a local band or
No.
local? I just know I've heard the name. I don't.
It's a brand new one.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, this is it's we're way past local.
name a song.
So, and this idea. So Bob James, he's doing a documentary about it, and he was talking about
That's when I got the call. I heard Bob James, and you went to the show in Hollywood.
Yeah. So what's interesting is that John he's a professional photographer. And he
Beautiful.
has a mentor who's 94.
Lovely.
And I'm lowbrow.
No. No, but the
How you
idea is
doing,
that-
old man?
Richard. The idea is that what Michael is learning from Bob.
We're coming back, and I'll have to make this quick because we only have about a minute and 15 seconds. 3, 2, 1, you're live. You're live.
Welcome back. It's Elizabeth Stewart. We're just honored to speak with Mikael Jorgensen and Cassandra C. Jones. They're a married couple that are super creative. And I was hearing from Cassandra that it is their golden rule, their byline, their Bible, their touchstone, that if there is a project, everything else, it sits back and waits. And I think that's so cool. You got to have that. And we were talking a little bit about this idea of complete and utter focus, the time to be complete and utter focus. Okay, Richard, you're up.
Oh, we can't hear him.
Okay, now Richard,
I'm
you're a
worried-
sound guy. You got to.
I understand, but quite honestly, we have 30 seconds literally. Your inspiration, you go into meditation. What do you do, the two of you, to come up with the stories and then create the music and visuals?
In 30 seconds?
Well, now it's down to 15. So I'll tell you what,
Okay, I'll
why don't we
answer,
have
I'll
them
answer.
back, Elizabeth?
I think the goal of an artist is to become your truest possible self.
There you go. Elizabeth, we have to literally wrap 5 seconds.
And we love it. Thank you so much, you both. And I'll see you.
Hi, I'm Chris Cullen.
I'm Lisa.
I apologize. I'm trying to do 4 things at the same time. And
That's fine. That's fine.
very interesting stuff. I would love to talk to the two of you on my program, which is just ironically called Tell Me Your Story.
Great.
Ah,
Sure.
We'd love to do that.
New
yeah, well,
paradigms
you should.
for a new world.
So Richard, look, you